Well, hello. My name is Diana, and I am an energy intuitive and a storyteller. Today, I'm sharing with you the story of the goldfish and its owner. Once upon a time, there was this man, and he had a goldfish. The goldfish was living in a tank on the top shelf in the living room. The man loved his goldfish very, very much and did everything in his power to make the goldfish happy. Unfortunately, the man didn't speak the goldfish language, so they had some trouble there. Days went by, weeks went by, months went by, until one bad day, there was this story in town about this germ that was making goldfish sick, and the owner started to worry. He called the vet and said, "What can I do to protect my goldfish? Here is something that will protect your goldfish." And the owner was happy he could do something to help his little fish friend. He dissolved the pills in the water and made sure the fish was going to eat the medicine. After that, he gave the goldfish some of that flaky stuff, that colorful stuff that they call fish food, that you can buy in the store for our friends. The owner was happy. He was doing all he could do in all his possibilities to protect his little friend, the orange, colorful, shiny little friend, swimming around in his bowl. A few days later, the owner got very scared again because it was all over the news. All these goldfish were getting sick and many were dying. The owner was panicking, so he called the vet again and he got a new medicine. And the vet said, "Dissolve these drops and the goldfish will be protected. It's the really, really newest of the newest medicine." Relieved, the owner went home and gave the fish his medicine. Not long after, he gave him his flaky stuff, and the owner felt good about himself. He was helping his friend. Days went by. The owner was busy with his work, stressed out, until they were shouting all over the news, in the newspapers, social media. Everybody had to stay home to protect the goldfish. Yes, that was the smartest thing he could do. He knew that he had to stay home to help his friend. He didn't want his friend to get this sickness, the germ that seemed to be everywhere. So he did the best he could do and he stayed home. His neighbors stayed home, his friends, everybody did their best to protect the fish. In the news, they were saying, "There's going to be a new medicine, so don't you worry, all is going to be just fine." And he knew he could trust that news. He could trust that the medical world would have a new medicine to protect his friend from catching that germ that seems to be all over the world, making these little friends so sick. But what the owner didn't see was that his fish was no longer shiny, it was no longer orangey. It started to be dim and it started to be too quiet. It didn't eat that much anymore. It started to develop these white spots on its skin and something was wrong. But the owner was so stressed out by now that he didn't pay attention. He was so afraid something was going to happen that he was just pacing around in his house, watching the news all the time, listening to his friends on the phone, and everybody was really, really freaking out, which was understandable. This was a very scary situation. Without thought, without paying attention, he added more of those colorful flakes to the water. The food from this factory, colorful and filled with dyes and preservatives, nothing that really looked like anything a healthy fish would want to eat. The owner didn't see that because he was putting too much in the water, that the water was getting murky. The plants in the tank were dying, started to rot. The fish didn't get enough oxygen, and it was getting unhappy and depressed because it realized that it wasn't getting what it needed. But he couldn't communicate this to his owner, you see. He didn't know how to communicate and let the owner know that he didn't have enough space to move around. He didn't get the healthy nutrition that his body needed. He didn't get to hang out with his friends because his boss was always stressed out. He didn't have time for anything. The water wasn't being replaced, and he didn't get enough oxygen. There wasn't even an oxygen provided in the water because the plants were dying, so they couldn't do a oxygen application or exchange. The chemical tablets and the fluids didn't really help that much either, but the owner didn't know. The owner didn't understand that the body of the fish didn't need chemicals. It needed healthy food and happiness and exercise and community and oxygen to thrive. It needed room, it needed inspiration, it needed new things, it needed brightness and excitement and love. Not that boring fishbowl where there was nothing to do but eat flakes and swim in circles. But the owner didn't understand and couldn't really communicate with the goldfish because it never learned how. Because the owner was always stressed out, always thinking about everything, never really sitting still. His parents were that way too, and his grandparents were that way, always out and about, always stressing, always overthinking, never really thinking even about trying to understand the goldfish. So, one good day, this parcel arrived at the owner's doorstep with the drugs for the fish that was going to save the fish from getting the germ, from being infected. The owner was happy and started to dissolve these new medicine for the fish. But the water was murky and polluted, and the fish was depressed, unhealthy because of all the toxins, all the chemicals, the rotten plants, and the oxygen depletion, and missing out on friends and family and fun activities. It was depressed. But the owner loved the fish. It did all it could do to save it. But what the owner didn't realize was that it wasn't the germ that actually came in with the parcel, the medicine for the fish, eventually together killing the fish. It was this entire brew of chemicals and misunderstanding and a lifestyle that was not really for the fish in the highest good, for the fish that actually killed the fish. What a hard lesson to learn for the owner. What did he learn? Did he understand that he was actually killing the fish instead of saving it? Because he didn't take the time to sit with it and to listen with his heart to what the fish really needed, to observe the fish and understand the needs and the desires for the fish to thrive. Now I warned you, this tale didn't end well. And there are different ways of listening to this tale. One can say that the owner is our mind, our brain, always going and going and going. And our body and our spirit are the goldfish. And the other way of looking at it is in a very different way, a societal way of misunderstanding. And although everybody is trying their best, there is just something missing in the story. There is a misconnection in what was there first, what was there last, and what happened next. What was the end result? That was the end of my tale. And we can learn or never change anything. But the problem is, as we all know, that with the mindset that started the problems, that same mindset will not find the solutions. We will have to change the way we look at things. We will have to accept that the same reasons that caused the problem don't have the answer for the solutions. I thank you for listening today, and I'm wishing you a really good day, and take very well care of your goldfish today. Mwah.